Hey, Kurt S. Snyder here. One thing that I've struggled with ever since I was a kid growing up in Minnesota has been keeping my feet warm when doing things in the cold outside in the winter. When I was in high school and college, that was Nordic ski racing. In high school, I was also trying to ride my bike a lot in the winter. And then when I lived in Wisconsin and Colorado and was trying to be a roadie and train all through the winter, spent a lot of time on the uh, cyclocross bike with studded tires, riding in really cold temperatures. And one theme that I had throughout all of that that I never really thought too much about was how much my feet sweat. And I would wear, slightly oversized cycling shoes with warm socks in them and booties over top. And by the end of a 4 hour ride, my booties would be soaked through with sweat. And in like 2006, 2007, I remember reading blogs about folks riding up on the Iditarod Trail in Alaska and trying to figure out how they dealt with it. And found one particular blog, I don't remember who wrote it, might have been a Mike Kiriak blog, about foot systems and vapor barriers. And that taught me a lot about how to maybe better manage sweaty feet in cold temperatures. And since then, I've experimented with it a lot and finally have found a system that works pretty well for me in temperatures down into the into the sub-zero Fahrenheit range. And so I want to share a little bit about what that system is for me and the different kind of layers that go along with that system and why I choose what I do. So for winter riding, and I'm talking in this case about fat biking, where you wear big old winter boots like this, which add a lot of insulation over a regular old cycling shoe, um, something like that. Or for warmer temperatures, might be something like the Shimano MW7 winter cycling shoe, not as insulated as a boot like this by far, but is considerably warmer than a regular cycling shoe. Challenge is if you have sweaty feet, you're still going to get cold feet in any of these before too long in really cold temperatures. So the system that I use, we'll start. Let's start with the boot and the liner system. So I wear a size 9 shoe normally, 9.5 maybe, and these boots are size 46, which is, I don't know, about a size 12 US. And I got them sized this large so that I can run these Intuition mountaineering boot liners. These are the Logan liner inside them rather than the thin felt liners that these 45 North boots come with. And these liners they have a few benefits. They're a little bit warmer than felt liners, in my opinion. They're heat moldable, so you can make them a little bit more comfortable to fit your foot and ankle. And they're also waterproof in the sense that it's closed cell foam inside, so it doesn't absorb any water. So if these do get wet from stepping in overflow or from sweat, the liner is still going to insulate. And that's something that felt won't do as good of a job with. So size 46 boot, about a 12. This is a size 11 liner. And again, I'm a size 9. So that still leaves me with plenty of room inside this for wearing a few different layers of socks under there. So that lives in there. And once it's together, looks like that. Inside, going toward my foot from the boot, the outer layer on my foot is a thick wool insulating sock. And you can go as thick as you want with these so long as you don't have so little room left that the boot starts, or squeezing your foot into the boot starts to compress the insulation. That won't actually help. That'll make things worse. So you want to have enough room that you can still wiggle your toes freely in here and not completely compress the socks in there. So this is a Smart Wool, one of their kind of expedition or mountaineering socks. So wear those. Inside that is a liner sock, and these are just some cheap REI liners that I really like. They're super thin and they dry out quite quickly, which we'll talk about why that's important later. And inside that, obviously, is my foot. But the one key layer that is crucial to my system is simply a plastic bag. And this is what we call a vapor barrier. And the goal of a vapor barrier is to prevent the vapor or the sweat from your foot from working its way out through your insulating layers. If this sock gets completely saturated with sweat, it's not going to insulate nearly as well as it would if all the pore spaces in the sock are filled with air. And so the goal with this system is you have a sweaty foot, you have a liner sock on in there for comfort, and then a vapor barrier layer outside that to trap all of the sweat inside your liner sock and your foot. That leaves your insulating sock nice and dry, and the liner in the boot also nice and dry. What you choose for a vapor barrier is really important. I've experimented a lot with these over the years. Some people say bread bags work great. They don't last very long. Your toe just punches right through them very quickly. But for a single ride, yeah, they're good. Some folks use something like turkey or chicken baster bags that you can get in grocery stores. They're a little bit thicker and a little bit more durable than a bread bag, but again, they're not actually all that durable in the grand scheme of things. And there are a number of commercially available vapor barrier liners out there, and most of those that I've tried are some sort of a just waterproof laminate fabric or a coated nylon. And the problem with those is that, you know, if you're wearing your boot, pushing on the pedals with that vapor barrier liner in there and sweaty feet inside that, the pressure of your foot on that fabric, even if it's coated with a waterproof material, that is gradually going to drive moisture through the fabric. The pressure of your foot just will force that to happen. And so I haven't found a commercial vapor barrier liner that actually is truly waterproof in practice. So there's nothing out there that I would recommend like that. But a bag like this, these are awesome. So I ordered a number of different bags like this years ago from some plastic bag supplier. I forget who it was. These were Ziploc bags, cut the zipper off the top. And these are 3 mil thickness. And so ones that are a little bit thinner, not particularly durable. Ones that are thicker tend to lump up as they fold over in your boot and aren't particularly comfortable. So something like 2 or 3 mil seems to be the sweet spot for how thick to go with these. And you can literally buy just about any size of Ziploc bags. You can just measure your foot, figure out how long your foot is, go a tiny bit bigger along the bottom of the bag, and then make sure that they're tall enough to go up to basically a little over the top of the boot, which for me is right about here. And so when I get everything in and on, this is pretty much even with the top of the boot. And this system has proven to work incredibly well for me. The biggest weakness to bags like this always are the seams, and especially at the toe where your foot can put some pressure on these. They will fail eventually, and sometimes surprisingly quickly, even on good quality thick bags. And so on all of these that I use a heat sealing press like this at a really low setting and just go around the whole perimeter of the bag and seal and basically reinforce all of those seams so that they don't blow out. And in my experience, you can use bags like that week in, week out for a few weeks at a time, and they hold up really well. Another thing that has worked well for me, and I've experimented with a number of these, is different kinds of antiperspirant foot lotions. This one from Carpe, I don't know anything about this company, but this is one that I found online and tried, and it works fairly well. Your feet still definitely can sweat with this on there and can sweat a fair bit, but it does reduce the amount of sweating, and it does reduce odor, which is great when you're on a multi-day trip and you have socks that you need to dry out at night. You don't want them to be smelling too badly. So how do you get things to dry out once you're out, especially on a multi-day trip? The liner socks, if I ride all day long and have my foot in these vapor barrier liners, I can pull the sock off at the end of the day, and this sock will be wet enough that I might be able to squeeze a little bit of actual sweat out of it, which is kind of gross. And so what I'll do at the end of the day, squeeze as much out as possible. If I'm out for one night or a 2-night trip, I might bring 2 or 3 pairs of these socks and not even worry about drying them out, just carry the wet one back, put on some dry ones in the morning, and call it good. If that's not possible on a longer trip, then what I'll do, wring them out as best as possible, and then when I go to sleep at night, I'll lay one sock over each shoulder inside my sleeping bag, and my heat will drive the moisture out of these, and by morning, they might be damp at best. They usually dry out quite effectively like that overnight. And then you've got dry socks in the morning. These socks, in theory, should be completely dry if the vapor barrier is doing its job and if the boot isn't leaking any moisture in from the outside. So these usually don't need to be dried out in this system overnight. So that is the system that I have found works really well for me and my sweaty feet when riding in frigid temperatures in the winter. The vapor barrier and liner system, that's not something that I came up with myself. That's been around for decades, but this kind of combination of things is what has proven itself for me on multiple trips up in Alaska and riding here in Idaho in temperatures of down to what, -40 Fahrenheit. So this is what I do, and I also want to point out that it's not one that you can only do in like clipless specific winter cycling boots. Like this is something that would work really well in any kind of, Sorel winter boot or Baffin boot if that's what you use for winter riding or just for winter activities, and you also struggle with sweaty feet. So it doesn't have to be cycling specific footwear or even cycling specific activities. It's a really cool system that can be adapted to all different kinds of needs. So let me know in the comments if you have other questions on any of this. And yeah, best of luck keeping those toes warm.